Are you thinking about buying a house? Were you not around for the oil crash? So many similarities are showing themselves in today's market that we saw in '08 right before the crash. When you see new builders announcing that they're having to drop their prices to try to get some of this inventory sold, it's said that there's 9 months worth of new builds available nationwide. That means it would take 9 months to sell them all. Problem is, they're not selling. When they're slashing prices, that's because they're slashing profit. They don't like this. What comes next?
All right, people. Hey, you're watching Bull Boom Bear Bust. My name is JJ, back with another dose. We're going to talk mostly real estate today, the housing market, the housing bubble, as some would call it. However, if the bubble doesn't ever go bust, is it really a bubble? We're going to talk about both sides of the fence today, folks. People that say we're on the precipice of a big correction slash crash in the housing market. We're going to talk about or hear from other people that say, no, this is just a normal shift in the housing market. I'm kind of on that side of the fence, but maybe I'll change my mind after we watch some people today. So we're going to go over here to the video that we started playing. And let me just find the individual's name for you so we're giving credit where credit's due. This is AntSync Media. So go check him out, AntSync Media. He seems to think that we're on the precipice of a pretty big housing downturn, maybe even the word crash. We're going to listen to what he has to say. I haven't played the full video yet, so I'm not sure. But let's take a listen here, and we'll talk about it. Let's continue.
They'll leave all the framing exposed and just walk away and come back when the market comes back, and then just build on that framing. Delinquencies, foreclosures, every month go higher and higher. It's becoming a bigger issue.
He's beating me in the hat game. I'll give him that. I got to step up my hat game. Cool hat.
36 out of 50 states are having price drops. Those price drops are going to accelerate, and they're going to get bigger. What good is equity if you can't realize it? A lot of people have unrealized equity and not going to be able to get that money out. HELOCs are getting harder and harder to get access to, as banks, they see the writing on the wall. They've been here before. They're even cutting credit lines overnight. You went to sleep and you had a huge credit line. You woke up and it's gone, and now it's what you owe. And this is being reported by a lot of people. FHA just announced that they're trying to target people with a 500 FICO to sell them a house, saying we could use your rent history on your apartment to help you get into these houses.
That is true. FHA is making it easier to get into a loan, and they're using people's rental history as a qualifier for the loan. All right. So, of course, income, but the credit score is being lowered, that people need to qualify for a loan. But that's actually more supportive of high home prices, because the more people that can qualify for loans, it keeps home prices propped up. But I get what he's saying. Let's go ahead and finish up here.
Trapping people at today's market prices is all they're doing. You know what the ugliest feeling was when the crash happened and it actually showed its face? People next door were buying houses for a couple $100,000 cheaper than the people who bought at the height of the market. So you know what that does? They're paying a lot less to be in that neighborhood than you. And what ends up happening is there's so much regret. People end up walking away. The housing crash in '08, it lasted 10 years. It wasn't just here and gone. It took years to get to the bottom and dig its way back out. It was a 10 to 12 year process. We're barely starting. Yeah,
Right.
Don't buy a house right now.
So there you go. I am in the camp that I'm not buying a house right now, but I'm still not convinced that we're going to see a crash. We should have seen a big crash in 2020. They put a floor under home prices. Let me show you a chart before we move on to some other people here, some other creators that put themselves out there. Let me just show you a chart here. Let me bring this up real quick. All right, look at this, people. This was put out by Tristan Ahumada. I probably got his name. Says he's out of Malibu, California. Delinquency rate, folks, on first lien mortgages. Just take a look at the dark yellow line. The lighter line down here, that's just the average between 2000 and 2005 before delinquencies really took off, just so you can kind of get a comparison. But the dark line, that's where we need to focus on. Look at in 2000, 6, 7, 8 through 9, we did see this big spike in delinquencies, all the way up reaching nearly 11%. That was enough to bring the entire housing market down. Fast forward about 10 years later, after that housing bust, 2020, straight up spike, folks, in delinquencies. However, it only breached about 8% before what happened. Why did it stop so abruptly and come back down so rapidly? They put a floor under the housing market. They put a freeze on foreclosures, right? Prevention programs, eviction moratoriums. People couldn't get evicted. So naturally, that was home price positive, because if people are able to stay in their rental, then that bleeds through into the home price and the housing market as well. And why is that? Well, when evictions are allowed to happen, rental prices drop significantly. So if they would have allowed people to get evicted, which many argue we shouldn't have, but this is the truth about home prices. Rent prices stayed high because of it, because you didn't see a ton of vacancies. When home prices are high and when rents are high, home sellers don't have as much of a motivation to sell their home because rents are also high. But when rents are dirt cheap, when there's a crash in rental prices, more homeowners that are strapped financially will choose to sell their home, folks, right? We went over that many times. But let me bring this chart back up here again, though, to see what happened after 2020. After 2020, of course, interest rates plummeted, right? Easy money, easy mortgages, low rates for years and years. And so much so that we saw a record low, right? And that's what this line is right here, record low. We saw a record low in mid-2023 of mortgage delinquencies. And the delinquency rate is not spiking upward yet. In fact, this goes all the way to March of this year. Now, we have later, more recent data. This is just the nicest chart that I could show you. It doesn't include, of course, April or May. And, of course, we're not finished with June yet. So we'll see what happens, but it's not spiked above 3.5 yet overall. All right, so I want you to think about that as we go on talking about home prices, the housing bubble, and the housing market. Right now, we're going to go over to James Cooper Jr. The James Cooper Jr. is how we put his name out there. And listen to what he has to say about the unaffordability in home prices right now. Take a listen here.
This is the worst housing market that America has ever seen. Let me paint a better picture for you. I'm newly engaged, and me and my fiance are looking for a starter home so that we can build some roots. We'd eventually start our family here. We'd have barbecues in the back. We'd get a fenced-in backyard for the dog. It would be incredible. But then this happened. $333,000 for a 1,000 square foot house.
Okay, it's pretty recent. Let's go back to the date here. So April, right? We're about 2 months from that. So $330,000, 2-bedroom, 3-bath, 1,000 square feet. Not very big for a family.
Square foot house. And you may be thinking to yourself, well, that's not so bad. Let me show you. This home that sold for $333,000, that was listed for $239,000.
Hey, how did he make himself sideways? I need to do that.
Sold for $150,000 back in 2018 with no major improvements. In 2025, with a $333,000 sale price, 6% down and a 6.6% rate, gives you a payment of $2,250. But back in 2018, with a $150,000 sale price, 6% down and a 4.5% rate, gives you a payment of $859. The couple that buys this home today needs to have a household income of $125,000 a year. When the couple that bought this 1,000 square foot house back in 2018 needed a household income of $55,000. In 2025, $150,000 gets you this 1,000 square foot house back in 2018 needed a household income of $55,000.
Look at that, folks. Look at the difference between 2025 and just 7 years ago, 2018. An income of $55,000 versus $125,000 today. Just looking at those numbers, a lot of people are thinking this has to come down. It's too overpriced. All right, let's continue, though. Going to give you my thoughts on it here in a little bit.
In 2025, $150,000 gets you this today in the same town. You might be thinking to yourself, oh, that's not so bad. This is what the inside looks like. This. So yes, that statement I made in the beginning is absolutely true. This is the worst housing market that America has ever seen. And for people like me who are trying to buy in, we are getting screwed. Like, follow, comment.
All right, James Cooper Jr. people. I'm not here to call anybody out, to say anybody's wrong. Anything could happen. Anything could happen. Go check out James Cooper Jr. if you wanted to get more of his analysis. Anything could happen, but here's what I think is more likely to happen. I think they're going to put a floor under the housing market again. I don't think they're going to allow people to get foreclosed if we see another big, who knows, health crisis 2.0, World War III. I think they're going to keep the market propped up and they're going to keep the lending going, keeping the money flowing, helicopter money. They're going to flood the economy with money like we saw trillions ever since 2020. Trillions of dollars flooded into the economy. Everything from paycheck protection loans to easy money financing to, of course, stimulus checks. I mean, a whole bucket full of things that they did to keep the market. Prevention programs, putting a floor under rents, no evictions, no foreclosures. You get the point, folks. Complete propping up of the market. All right, but let's hear from a few more people so we can kind of get a good both side view of the housing market and different people's opinions. And also, please drop your opinion down here in this channel in comments here. But actually, real quick, a couple comments here on this video here. One says America is such a joke. Another person said dream isn't dead, talking about the American dream. It's changed. The new American dream is getting to the end of the month with money still in your bank account. It would be funny if it wasn't true. Another commenter said, when I was in high school, 2008, my friend lived in a mansion that cost $300,000. I remember those days. I remember knowing people that lived in super huge houses, some of them McMansions, some of them actually mansions, and you found out what they paid for is like $300,000, sometimes $400,000. Now I'm from Michigan, so things were cheaper back there, but you get the point, you get the picture. Of course, I'm in California now, a whole different world out here, but back in Michigan, yeah, you could get mansions back in the day for $300,000. Someone else in comments said, my biggest mistake was not being old enough to buy a house when I was 10 years old. Yeah, people that weren't able to buy a home or just not old enough when things were affordable are looking back and they're saying, wow, maybe instead of collecting baseball cards, I should have been saving up to buy my first home at 10 years old. I mean, come on, what can you do about that? All right, another commenter said, 2020 ruined the market. People were buying homes over asking price, and this had a domino effect. Yes, lending was easy. They dropped rates to the floor, and you know the rest of the story. Home prices took off since 2020, big time. And they were going up before 2020. 2020 just accelerated the home price inflation. All right, one more comment. Some of these are pretty interesting. Somebody said, I just sold my 533 square foot house for $920,000. That's got to be California for that price. 533 square foot. I can't even imagine building a house that small. It's got to be a townhome or condo. 920,000. Maybe San Francisco, I'm thinking. The question is, who bought a 533 square foot house for $920,000? Wow. All right, next we're going to go over to somebody here, a creator going by the name of By His Truth, and he's going to show us a chart here and give us his analysis of home sales, saying that the housing market is on the verge of a big drop. It sounds like what he's saying here. Let's go ahead and take a listen here.
The real estate market is cooked. What I'm about to show you guys, if you're looking to buy a home or sell a home, you're going to want to know what's going on here. This is the best data we've had in 2025 yet, all right? Now, I know a lot of people try to deny that there's a housing crash going on. They're not going to be able to deny it after looking at this. I know I was a little bit early saying it in October of 2024, but it's here. Now, what this chart shows us, green.
All right, he's saying housing crash. I'll give you my opinion. Let's listen to what he's saying, though.
Means higher in home sales, okay? So green is good. The pinker it is, that's worse, and white is kind of neutral. So like right here, this goes.
All right, more sales up here in the green behind his finger. That's 2000 if you can't read it. And where it starts turning red is 2008. That's sales basically dropping. The numbers get lower, really low for home sales.
From 2000 all the way to 2025, okay? And if you look from 2000 to 2006, this was a big run, right? This was a huge run in home sales. And if we look at 2013 all the way until 2022, a pretty big run also. Not the same size though. If you look at how many months were absolutely on fire, right? Okay, and so if we look at 2008, 2009, 2010, hopefully no one's gonna be a denier that that wasn't the worst time in home sales, right? Okay, And so you have these 2 years where it's no green all the way across here. But then even in 2010, you still had a green June, right? So it still picked up a little bit in the summertime. Well, let's look at what's going on right now. 2023, 24, and 25, we have no green across here. No green.
No green. Sales are low. But why are sales low? Because people are locked into a low mortgage rate. We saw the delinquency rate. Delinquencies aren't spiking. Sellers aren't desperate to put their home on the market. So naturally, sales are going to be low, and the homes that are on the market are not that affordable. So you don't have a very big pool of buyers. But we need a bigger panic on the seller side of things for there to be a crash, in my opinion. But let's go ahead and finish up what he's saying.
Okay, this is national, the entire United States. So, for example, if I look at February of 2025, 257,000, okay? And if I go to February of 2010, that's 258,000. 1,000 less than 2010. 2010 was one of the worst times in U.S. history for home sales. No one can deny it anymore. It's not the end of the United States, but home sales they're crashing, and the prices are crashing heavily with it.
Okay, he says home sales are crashing, prices are crashing. Prices are dropping in some areas, in some markets. I'd like to see what data he's looking at that show him that prices are crashing on a broad level or on a widespread scale. I'm not seeing that myself. But hey, again, let me know what you think. Do you agree with these people? Do you disagree? That was By His Truth. So maybe go check him out. Let him know what you think here. Let's go to a couple comments, though. Somebody in comments on this video that we just watched said, realtors will continue to deny it until they're living in a cardboard box. Well, realtors make their living off of that. So, of course, realtors, they want to see easy money. They want to see lower mortgage rates, lower interest rates. Another person said he doesn't get it. Nobody selling their house. Everybody's holding onto their house because there's nothing to buy. I agree with that comment too. Price reductions everywhere. Somebody else said that. Midwest don't care. Sales still high. Okay. So Midwest is bucking the trend according to him. Tax the rich less so that they don't avoid paying it altogether. Okay. It's called functional. If you don't know how it works, then you will know how housing market works. Don't wait to own a home. Just my advice. So basically that's somebody saying jump into the housing market right now, thinking that home prices are just going to go up forever. Hands down, best economic info content creator. That person said, thank you, sir, to that person. So obviously that person wants to see home prices come down. Probably somebody waiting on the sidelines to buy a home. All right, one more comment here. Goes as follows, quote, nobody can afford anything anyway. $100,000 for a truck that's worth $40,000 and high interest rate. $600,000 for a house that somebody bought in the 80s for $80,000. That's probably right. You could have bought a $600,000 house today, probably between $70,000 and $100,000 back in the 80s. That was kind of a long time ago though, but not enough of a long time ago for home prices to go up. Whatever it is, fivefold, sixfold, tenfold, depending on your location. All right, somebody else in comments said, we're not having a housing crash, bro. He says 2008 will never happen again. The banks already have things in place for that to happen. Basically, there's not going to be another banking scare. Banks are not going to be on the verge of collapsing. Maybe you'll see some smaller banks fail and get bought up by a larger bank. But the big banks, I don't think are going to go anywhere, folks. They've already got this market set to stay steady and to stay stable. We may see some corrections and some downturns, but no crash unless something huge were to happen, again, like on a level of 2020. Right, and I know I keep going back to that, but even in 2020, they found a way to keep it propped up, folks. So it's insane. It's crazy. Let me know what you think about this, folks. The housing market, the economy, whatever you want to talk about, whatever you want to put comments down. I'll try to read a lot of your comments on this channel. If I get 200 thumbs up, 200 likes, I'll read the first 20 good comments. And of course, not the hate comments, but the good comments in a future video. Let's talk about one last thing here before we wrap this one up, people. And I'm going to go ahead and get out of here in a minute. But first, housing inventory, folks. This is what tells you what's going on here, folks. So latest data we have is May. Of course, we're not done with June yet, but May we saw 1,036,000 homes on the market across the U.S. This is active listings, new and pre-owned homes, right? So we have to go back to December 2019, November, December 2019 to see a number that high. So yes, things are changing. They're shifting. The biggest inventory, the most inventory that we've seen in over 5 years, but not a crash, folks. So we saw inventory, higher going all the way back to 2016, and prices didn't crash back then. So what's going to happen this time? Please let me know down in comments. Forever home prices going up, correction territory, or just a shift in minor corrections. You know what side of the fence I'm on, folks. I'm not really on the side of the fence. I'm not bullish or bearish. I'm just thinking it's going to continue to tread water. Some slight price corrections in different areas. Some areas may not even go down, right? Unless something super crazy, scary happens to bring this whole house of cards down. But that would be more like a systemic collapse of the entire financial structure, which that would take something massive for that to happen, folks. But anyways, let me know what you think down in the comments. Housing market today, folks. Crazy, I know, but please let me know either way. Big love. Keep stacking. Bye for now. Thanks for being here. Peace.